Hello. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar, Google Ad Grants and Facebook Ad Basics. In today's digital age, it's imperative for nonprofit professionals to meet potential donors where their attention is most likely to be. Google, Facebook, and Instagram are in many ways the hangouts of your new donors. So how will you capture their interest and attention? On this webinar, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started and become more masterful at targeting new supporters through online advertising. And we hope you enjoyed today's presentation. For your reference, we'll send the recording and slides to all registrants via email after today's event. We also want to encourage your participation today, so please submit any questions you have throughout the presentation into the questions box on your control panel. If your control panel is minimized, just look for that orange box and arrow on the side of your screen to expand the menu and access the questions tab. At the end of today's session, we'll be having a Q&A with our experts. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our panel of experts. Cameron Ripley is the CEO and founder of Community Boost Consulting, a digital marketing agency that specializes in engaging with nonprofits looking to effectively leverage their $10,000. Cameron helps organizations reignite passion for their mission, build sustainable and diverse revenue streams, and create successful approaches to fund development. Michael Goodrum is a senior consultant at Community Boost Consulting. Michael helps nonprofits quickly reach new audiences, increase the important conversations happening on their website, and build marketing systems that ensure they are continuously introduced to new and qualified supporters. Danica Covington, who is part of the digital marketing services team here at MobileCause, advises and guides MobileCause customers with digital fundraising and donor engagement strategies. She has empowered countless customers to accelerate their efforts through the help of nonprofit technology. So they put together an information-packed agenda for you, and we're going to cover in today's event how to conquer Google Ads and Facebook Ads, qualifying for and leveraging the Google Ad Grant, multi-channel fundraising strategies, and setting goals and identifying your audiences. And before we dive in, I have a quick poll here I'm going to launch. So let me know by choosing directly on your screen. Are you familiar with Google AdWords? And have you implemented advertising campaigns using Google or Facebook? Okay. So go ahead and make your selections and submit. I'll leave this open for just a few more moments as we're waiting for our audience to warm up a little bit, get that caffeine pumping. All right, excellent. I'm going to go ahead and close this out and share the results with everybody. So it looks like by and large, most people are in that somewhat category. So Cameron, I'm going to pass things over to you. And what are your thoughts on our results today?
Beautiful. Well, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, those results, aren't necessarily surprising. I feel like a lot of the nonprofit space has been learning more about Google Ads and Facebook Ads. However, we haven't, fully dove in to become practitioners yet. And that's really the purpose of today's webinar, is to share some of the top strategies and how to get started in both Google Ad Grants and Facebook Ads. All right. So, before we dive into the actual tactics of Google Ad Grants and Facebook Ads, we like to start off with just thinking about, what is marketing to you and to your organization? Because here at Community Boost, we talk a lot about how marketing is not, it's really about acquiring attention and not just impressions, right? And my clicker, here we go.
Oh, you know what? PowerPoint is telling me that it stopped working. Bear with me one moment. I'm just going to restart this. Sorry for the technical issue, folks.
Yeah.
Something we all have to deal with time and again, I suppose.
Not a problem. But, again, before we dive in, here at Community Boost, before we did Google Ad Grants or Facebook ads, right, we really just wanted to help nonprofits. And so starting from where we were at is, what is marketing to you? And we talk about, let's see, do I have the clicker yet? There we go. So marketing for us is really about, being where people's attention is at and not just generating impressions, right? And in 2018, people's attention is online and it is on their mobile device. And so we're going to look at some of the data around that. I always find this stuff just very interesting. So looking at some of the Google statistics, it's expected that Google will have over 80% of the search market. And when people search something on the internet, that'll be, again, estimated that 80% of those searches will be on Google by 2019. Currently, there's over 100 billion searches on Google every single month, and over 64% of the internet searches are happening today on Google already. And what's really amazing is that Google for Nonprofits and the Google company has really made a stand for the nonprofit sector. Last year alone, Google granted over $1.8 billion in free Google advertising on Google, and we'll be talking more about how to leverage that. And over 50,000 nonprofits have already been approved for the Google Ad Grant. And so let's talk some of the big Facebook numbers, right, and where the market is going. There's over 1.6 billion daily active Facebook users. According to a poll of internet marketers, Facebook was ranked the #2 ad platform to drive the most ROI. This is actually just below Google AdWords or Google Ads as we've rebranded. And 79% of the US internet users actually log on to Facebook. So, 4 out of 5 people are logging on to Facebook, and 60% of US internet users actually watch videos on Facebook, which is definitely just a leading indicator that, that platform alone is becoming much more video heavy. And I just find this fascinating that Facebook ad revenue in the United States is set to outpace total print ad spending by 2019. And last, let's look at some Instagram data. As many people know, right, is continuing to grow really exponentially. And when they launched Instagram Stories in, I believe, 2016, they added over 100 million users. There's over 500 million daily active users. 25% of Instagram ads are now single videos. And there's so much stickiness to the Instagram platform, especially for millennials. Instagram users open the app daily, 51% of the time, and over 35% of Instagram users are opening the app multiple times a day. I can just look around, even our own team here at Community Boost, I always see them on Instagram. And so let's talk about how that breaks down for actual donors, right? There's this, the Global Giving Trends report is a report I personally always really like to look at. And when we talk about these 3 key donor segments of baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials, this was a poll of donors and really what inspires them to really give. And, our baby boomers, our fundraising events are important for all 3 segments, right? They get to feel the mission, we're there in person. That's still a big factor for baby boomers. However, social media and email is continuing to grow. With Gen Xers and millennials, it's the #1 thing is that they flagged for why they give is social media, right? Their time on Facebook, what they see on Instagram. Fundraising events is still important here as well. And email for all 3 is a big part of this. And I know we're not talking a lot about email today, but it's a huge piece of the digital funnel as well. And last, what's also very interesting is all 3 donor segments noted that they prefer to give online. So it's important to think about that user experience and, having a great platform, whether that's Mobile Cause, just finding a way to make that experience easy because people, it's part of why they give or don't. So, why we dove into that, right, is, again, it's 2018. It's imperative that we market where people's attention actually is at. So whether, big data moves you or if you just look around, right, like I'll see my dad and he'll be spending time on Facebook. And clearly we all use Google almost every single day. And both of these platforms together, it's very advantageous for the nonprofit sector because there's tremendous scale potential behind both of them. And there's, inspiring content is why we're there. So, today we're going to be diving in deeper, how do we get started in both Google Ads and this amazing program called the Google Ad Grant, and why Facebook ads and how we can hyper target can together be so powerful for our fundraising efforts. So I'm going to pass it over now to Michael, again, one of our senior consultants here at Community Boost, and he's going to introduce you to the basics of Google Ad Grants.
Thanks, Cameron. Yeah, and thanks to everyone who took the time to jump on this webinar. I wish we had time to learn about every single unique mission of the nonprofits that are here. It's just awesome that you've all taken the time out of your day to learn more and grow. And let's jump into Google Ad Grants. So just off the bat, what is it? What are some of the benefits? What can it help us achieve? The first thing we definitely want to point out is this is not a typical grant. It is, doesn't take that long to apply for, and you can be approved in less than a week for this grant. For those that answered, somewhat familiar or not at all familiar, the Google Ad Grant is free ad spend that can be leveraged on the Google search platform to connect with people as they are searching for things that are related to your nonprofit. And so some of the benefits of being able to advertise on Google is, well, first off, very clearly, free ad spend, right? Your marketing budgets are likely somewhat tight. And then we start to talk about advertising budgets. That's even tighter. Well, all of a sudden we have 10,000 we can spend every single month on that platform. Well, what can that $10,000 get us? It can get us, if done correctly, over 5,000 new monthly site visitors. Now, not only is that a pretty significant number for many nonprofits, but it's also really worth noting that most of these site visitors will not have known about your nonprofit previously. So you may have a kind of figure in your head, oh, we get this many site visitors per month. It's likely that many of them already know you though, and they're either typing you in, your URL in directly to get to your website, or they're searching for you already on Google using your name. Most of these site visitors from the grant will have never heard about you before, which really leads into the next point here is it allows you to consistently build that email list. Cameron did an awesome job of showing the the different channels that people prefer to give to and what they get inspired by. We know email is a big factor, and so using the Google Ad Grant, the big benefit is bringing on those new site visitors and allowing them pathways to get onto your email list. And then I know a big reason that a lot of us are here today is the Google Ad Grant can absolutely introduce high quality people to your mission, which will then scale your online donations. And so probably wondering, how does it work? We have this $10,000 gift card essentially from Google. What does it let us do? Well, I'm sure we're all familiar with Google Ads, unless you're one of those traders and you're on Bing or Yahoo or something like that. But in essence, Google will have over 80% of the search volume. And when people are looking for things related to your nonprofit's mission, like in this example, with an organization we currently partner with named To Write Love on Her Arms, they support mental health, just awareness and work in the United States. And in this example, Donate for World Suicide Prevention Day, something they absolutely want to grab attention from and be on the first page for, but without the grant would not have been there. And so I'm sure, we can all think of examples of things that supporters would be searching for that we would love our nonprofit to be on the first page for, but most likely currently isn't. And that's how the Google Ad Grant works and the real power. And so with all of this opportunity does come some quality checks from Google. They're giving out $1.8 billion to the nonprofit sector. It is, it's pretty straightforward to qualify for, which we'll go through in a few seconds. So there are some quality controls just to make sure that the ad spend they're sharing is being used correctly. So one of the stipulations that we want to keep track of is the $10,000 per month grant is actually a $329 per day ad grant. And that total does not roll over. So, it's not that you can necessarily spend maybe $3,000 in a specific day to promote a large event. This daily function of it really promotes building systems to make sure that you are spending in the right areas on the right days to maximize the full spend. Ad Grants is actually only search text ads, as many of you may already know, but that is the traditional, Google ad that we think of. You type in something, it's going to be on the top of the page. In the AdWords platform, there's also display and some other forms of advertising that just are not open to the grant, so it is search ads only. Great news for anyone who's on this webinar and not already qualified. Pretty much all 501c3 charities are eligible for approval. We do have a link. It's a little bit hidden down there on the bottom, but a link to more of the compliance checklist. Things like government agencies, hospitals, and some schools are not eligible for the grant. And if you're curious at all, both our website, but also Google Ad Grants website does a great job of addressing and making sure you understand if you would be eligible or not. Now, this next one is really important to understand. We are limited from a quality perspective to $2 per click. So what that means is when there is more competition around a certain search. So let's say someone is typing in donate now. Well, that's a search I think almost everyone on this webinar would at least like to be a part of. Well, because there is so much, demand from us for something really specific like donate now, a search like that would probably cost upwards of $8 to $10 to qualify for, which means that more often than not, we won't necessarily be able to use the grant on those more competitive searches, which all that encourages us to do is to get deeper with our quality and the way that we structure our accounts. So thinking back to Write Love on Our Arms, which supports, mental health awareness and work, they would maybe be, more likely to show for something around support or donate to a mental health organization or nonprofit would likely be something they could qualify for under $2. Now, we just spent time talking about a roof on what we're able to bid, but Google did roll out in late 2017 the ability for us to sometimes bid above $2 using a bidding strategy called Maximize Conversions. I don't want to get too much into it because that's a pretty advanced tactic that we would go into on a more advanced Google Ad Grants webinar. But if you have questions on Maximize Conversions or breaking out of that $2 limit sometimes, please feel free to follow up with us afterwards. We're happy to answer any more questions. And so, we talked about how the grant works, some of the stipulations. Well, if you follow those guidelines, what is really possible? We had the pleasure of working with Moms in Prayer, who is both a partner of ours and then also a customer using the Mobile Cause platform. And we just looked at some of the information from Q3 and Q4 of last year. So kind of the, leading up to the giving season and then the full-blown giving season. What went down specifically through the Google Ad Grant and our work together? Well, first, we were able to help drive $19,000 in e-commerce revenue. So a lot of that was actually online store sales. Side note, if you do sell online products or just things that, are tangible that people can actually buy, and the revenue from it directly supports your mission, the Ad Grant can be a phenomenal tool for driving more of those sales. But then some of this e-commerce revenue was also donations, but just a very significant number from this Google Ad Grant. Next, 345 prayer group requests. For Moms in Prayer, the main way that they engage their community is by allowing moms to join groups that then stay very in touch with the Moms in Prayer mission. They meet, on a frequent basis. And it actually turns out that almost every single prayer group makes a contribution towards year end. So as you can imagine, it's a really big goal of Moms in Prayer to generate more of these groups. The Ad Grant in this, the last 2 quarters of last year led to 345 requests from moms who had never heard about Moms in Prayer. And then another kind of outcome of it was almost generating 3,000 email subscribers. And then further than that, looking just out to all time, the Google Ad Grant has sent over 817,000 qualified site visitors to their website. The majority of them being the exact persona, the mom who, has kids and is receptive to their messaging. So hopefully, you see some opportunities here that coincide with how your nonprofit runs. And so how do we get there, right? We have some of these stipulations and we have clearly opportunity, as we can see through some of these case studies. Well, Community Boost, we've worked with over 200 nonprofits throughout the years on their Google Ad grants, both local organizations like the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island Foundation, but also some international nonprofits like Pencils of Promise and several United Ways. So, from all of that experience, there's some key takeaways that we really do feel apply kind of across the board. The first one, and I'm personally extremely passionate about value-based marketing. So making sure that you're not only getting what you need from the ads that you're running. So in this example, making sure that you have ads ready for donations, ready for volunteers, the things that are really going to directly benefit your nonprofit, but that we also in turn have campaigns designed to deliver value back to your audience. So thinking about what is your nonprofit a thought leader in? If this was Community Boost, for example, we would run ads that are all about giving away information around digital marketing for nonprofits, which is actually something that we do. So making sure that you are focusing both on, action-oriented campaigns to bring in those donations, but then also how can you provide value back with the things you learned over the years? Now, next, we also want to make sure we have a variety of conversion goals that'll help further drive donations. So what that means is, we do want to track that last donation conversion. So if someone makes their first one-time donation, we want to make sure that that is tracked, but also the steps leading up to it. The email subscription, maybe they phone call, they call you first, or they submit a contact form, or any meaningful actions that they're taking on your website. We want to make sure that those are being pulled back into the Google Ad Grant account so that you can make decisions not just based off of donations, which will happen, less often than an email subscriber, and you can optimize for more of all of the conversions. And then that kind of leads into the next point, just conversion tracking in general. It's actually mandatory now through the new policies that you are doing some conversion tracking. But again, it just helps you optimize and make sure that you're getting more of the positive results that you want. Again, something that Google has a lot of guides on, we have guides on, and if you have more questions, of course, please follow up with us. And then the last one, this is also just a huge opportunity. The Google Ad Grant, because it's free ad spend, we can use it as almost a little sandbox to test messaging. Now, I wish I could see everyone who's on this webinar and do a quick show of hands just to hear, how many communication strategists we have. But it feels like a dream to be able to use free ad spend to test your messaging. Say for your year-end campaign, you could test 3 different ads that all have separate headlines and watch which ones have stronger engagement. And based off of those findings, you can use that messaging across a variety of your other marketing channels. So again, hopefully that made sense, but it's just an incredible opportunity to test with many audience members for free every month. And so hopefully by now, if you don't already have the Google Ad Grant, you're very interested in applying. Luckily, good news, like we said, it is pretty easy to get approved if done correctly. So like we say here, it typically can get done in 10 business days. It sometimes depends on, Google Ad Grants and Google for Nonprofits team's volume. But in general, we're going to set up a free TechSoup account, which is just a third-party platform that's very easy to go into and set up. Then we're going to apply for Google for Nonprofits. So you have to have TechSoup access to get into the Google for Nonprofits platform. And once you're in there, it's kind of this dashboard. You can then go and actually directly apply for the Google grant. And they have an excellent creation guide that walks you through all the steps you would need to know. And what's pretty cool and unique about this grant is instead of it being, a form or something that you actually write out, you're actually building a Google Ads account, and then you're submitting your account for review with the team. So that's the last step, is through the portal, you submit your account that you've built. So that's an overview of Google Ad Grants. Walking through some of the basics. I'm going to pass it back to Cameron, who's going to share some of the basics of Facebook ads.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. All right. So hopefully you guys are excited about the power of Google Ad Grants. Definitely a very powerful traction channel. And next, I want to dive into one of the, other really excited traction channels that we've been getting very strong results from for our nonprofit partners. And then last, we're going to share how they actually complement each other as well. And so that is Facebook ads. and Instagram ads. So, when I do say Facebook ads, I'm also referring to Instagram ads. Instagram was actually bought by Facebook, and we can run ads on both or either platform through Facebook. And, not since Google Ads or Google AdWords has there been a platform that is so powerful for nonprofit marketers. The hyper-targeting opportunity on Facebook ads is really unbelievable. You can target people based on their interests and what they like. You can target people based on, of course, demographics, location, but also some of the other most, what's really amazing is, you can target based on actions they've taken on your site, or even the power of the lookalike audience, which I'm going to be definitely going into more detail on, where we can actually upload, our current supporters or donors and create lookalike audiences of new people who really match certain tendencies of those that actually give and contribute to our mission today. And it's incredibly scalable. Last, you can actually get started very affordably with as little as $10 a day. And Facebook is a pretty easy platform to, at least get moving on. And that's one of the things I just love about digital marketing. Here at Community Boost, we really impress a startup type methodology for our nonprofit partners. Even the biggest organizations we talk to typically have, tighter marketing budgets. And with digital marketing, we can really track how things are going, and we can get started for, small tests. And then if things look promising, we can invest more. Next is really the ad creative. Facebook and Instagram, we have such, breadth of what we can try, image ads, carousel ads, video creative. There's all sorts of ways we can tell the story about our nonprofit. And, in my opinion, Facebook and Instagram ads are not only highly effective, but they're also still very underpriced. And, I think both the for-profit space and the nonprofit space, I think this is going to continue to increase over the years because it's that effective. But I do believe those who are really making that investment today are going to be able to kind of capitalize longer. So let's talk about how it works. And for me, I learned best, through examples. And so at last year end in 2017, we worked with 3 organizations. And I definitely want to give them some shout outs. Again, that's To Write Love on Our Arms, Zoe, and Days for Girls. Now, we ran Facebook and Instagram ads for them during the year-end giving season. So, these numbers are certainly exciting, but also let's keep in mind, people are in a very charitable giving spirit. And these are just a couple examples of the creative. These are Facebook screenshots. We also run on Instagram, as I had mentioned, but we really broke down the results reporting here in 2 windows. One, what was our return on ad spend in both within 1 day of interacting with our ads, and then what was our return on ad spend in interacting with our ads within 28 days. So people who had seen those ads, what did they contribute within 1 day versus 28 days? Now, even in 1 day, our return on ad spend was over 3x, so 300%, right? So for every $100 we're putting in, we're seeing 300 come back, which we were very impressed by. The organization that performed the highest here had over a 6x return on ad spend within 1 day. Within 28 days, the results were even better, where we had an average return on ad spend of almost 10x. So very impressive. The highest here was 24x, which was really just remarkable. We had some very strong video creative. But with Facebook and Instagram ads, the 2 biggest variables to success are strong hyper-targeting, which I'm going to dive into here in a second, and the creative itself. The images we use, the videos we use. And the last thing I just want to highlight that is really exciting is you can see here, I know it might be hard for a lot of you to see, but one of these ads has almost 1,000 likes, was shared over 300 times, which the engagement, right? Comments build, it's really it's amazing to me. And with that, when say Michael, who's sitting next to me, shares this ad and one of his friends gives, that donation is not even included in this case study information. That would show up kind of as organic social media donation. So there's a virality factor to Facebook and Instagram ads that is also very exciting. And so I mentioned hyper-targeting multiple times, right? It's really the true power of Facebook and Instagram ads. And when we talk how we target on the platform, there's really 3 key audience scenarios we reference, which is core audiences, custom audiences, and lookalike audiences. This is an important piece of it. So this is like where you definitely want to pay attention. So with core audiences, this is, think of it, this is like when we manually select the type of people we want our ads to show to. So we can do things like different age groups, location, interest, right? Like what do they like on Facebook? There's other behavior targeting we can do, like charitable giving tendencies, which is one we certainly recommend. This is where you're really trying to select who you want your ads to run at. Next is custom audiences. And there's, 2 main ways we build our custom audiences. Facebook and Instagram ads have this feature in which you can actually upload supporter lists, donor lists. You upload these things securely, but you can have that audience, right? So you can then run ads at them, which helps us increase lifetime value, right? There's, a lot of our nonprofits, I'll hear language like, our donor. And I just don't believe that, right? People can choose to give to whoever they want to give at any time. And so it's important to stay top of mind to increase lifetime value. And so uploading those lists can be a very profitable tactic, but also you can also create remarketing lists. So a user case that we use here often are people that basically what you do, not to get too technical, but you put a piece of code, what we call the Facebook pixel, on your site. And that builds lists, right? So it starts to remember people who are on your site. And you can then, one custom audience might be, okay, people who've hit our donate page, but who haven't actually converted and donated. That's a great audience to continue to run ads at, right? Maybe they just didn't have their credit card. Maybe they were on mobile and in their car. And so we want to catch them at a time where they can actually, go through those steps. So custom audiences are key. And then last, but really most excitingly, are the lookalike audiences. This is the true scale potential of Facebook and Instagram ads for nonprofits. And so what a lookalike audience is when we, upload a supporter list or we create that custom audience. You can actually create what we call the lookalike audience, which is a new audience, new potential supporters, but they match very closely to attributes leveraging Facebook's algorithm that, our typical donor might already have. And, when it comes to lookalike audiences versus core audiences and trying to manually pick it, it's pretty incredible how effective the lookalike audiences are. And this is what's so scalable. You can then, not to, reference Inception, but you can kind of do lookalikes of lookalikes that are working. And Facebook is really just trying to make this as easy as possible to target people that, really match who typically converts or donates. All right, so, we understand targeting. Sorry, I hit too many slides. So we understand the targeting and kind of what can happen. But what are some top recommendations from, the experience we've had working with some nonprofits on this front? At minimum, right? I know it can be tough to secure some ad spend, but at minimum, if you're going to test at any point this year, really think deeply about giving this a small test in 2018 year-end giving. $500 in Facebook and Instagram ad spend in a small test can go a really long way. you want to start getting some sort of KPIs and really understanding what's possible here. So either at year end, or if you're running some other, online fundraising campaign for a certain month, right? Like, January is, I believe, like Human Trafficking Awareness Month, or if you're campaigning during Suicide Prevention Month, right? Whenever you're running those campaigns, this is a great time to test the platform. Next, definitely leverage the custom and lookalike audiences. So, again, securely uploading list of past or current supporters, and then creating a lookalike audience of new potential supporters that really match the people who donated to you in the past. That is, if you're going to put the ad spend anywhere, that can be very effective. Besides the hyper targeting, creative is such a key variable here. And it's really what is most fun about Facebook and Instagram. You can, video creative can go a long way, image creative, you can really experiment. For one example, especially when we're targeting new audiences, we might run a video ad that really explains the mission. And then we can create a custom audience of people who've watched 90% of that video or more. And then we run our direct response donation ads at them in that. So really playing with that creative, you want to stand out on the platform. It's less about the actual copy. The image and the video are really important to getting engagement. And last, use the ad platform of Facebook and Instagram. It is significantly more effective than boosting posts, period. I know that the boosting post feature is kind of easier to use. It's, kind of there in front of you when you're already on your Facebook fan page. But putting some time, putting a couple hours to become a practitioner will get you better long-term results, and it's more scalable. And the last tip, kind of how to get started, one of the top tips is actually taking the time to set up the business manager. There's, you can Google this. There's tons of information on kind of the steps of doing it, but it will save you a lot of time long-term. And actually, even just for your normal organic Facebook posting, business managers really getting open up to that as well. So creating this will be worth it. And it'll also allow you to give access to others easier to, if you do partner with an agency, if you want someone to audit your account, it'll just streamline it all long term. All right. And so the last key point here before we hand it off is, I just want to highlight how Google Ads and Facebook ads are also just incredibly complementary for nonprofit marketers. And they can create such a powerful 1-2 punch in supporting your fundraising efforts. Most nonprofits, we have strong donation appeals. Our campaign creative is good. It's kind of baseline today for us to share our tangible work and to be transparent with our donors. However, the biggest pain point is we often lack just serious traction in getting new people to our fundraising efforts. And in 2018, people's attention is on Google, Facebook, and Instagram, period. And the best nonprofit marketers are doing everything we can to really show up on these platforms as much as possible. Because, it's amazing that Google gives us this $10,000 per month gift. It's a powerful way to get on the first page. There's really no better way to send thousands of qualified visitors to our site. And they have that search intent. They search something that really indicates that they care about our mission. And with Facebook and Instagram, the hyper targeting of potential donors is something that, nonprofit marketers 10 years ago couldn't have even dreamt of. Like, it's really amazing. And we're on those platforms because we want something inspiring or thought-provoking to really pull on our heartstrings. And your nonprofit needs to be there, right, to really stop people's thumbs and to grab their attention, to be what they're looking for. And here at Community Boost, we talk often about creating this marketing funnel. And it's often quoted that it takes at least 7 touch points to convert a first-time donor. And in 2018, we just have to be where people's attention is at, especially during year-end giving and the fundraising season. And both AdGrants and Facebook have just proven that they can move the needle on these key measurable outcomes of all steps of our marketing funnel, whether it's new quality awareness, whether it's building our email list, whether it's, really staying top of mind in the consideration phase, or whether it's, immediately generating those first gifts. And overall, as we do both for more organizations, we're just creating a new donor journey that is more improved, and we're seeing higher gift sizes and increased retention rates. And, my last point here is just the speed of technology is really only going to continue to pick up, right? And the nonprofits that are going to thrive in this era are going to provide value to their audience at scale, and they're not going to be afraid to be practitioners and to test these platforms, and to really remember to prioritize their marketing efforts around where's people's attention at today. And the secret to Google and Facebook is really just to fully use the power of each channel and just let those channels help each other. It's really this snowball effect that builds over time.
I apologize. I think PowerPoint's frozen once again. I'm going to boot it back up here. There we go.
Perfect. Well, again, we are Community Boost, and our purpose is we exist to empower social ventures changing the world. I know we covered a lot today. There's a lot of strategy, high level, with how to get started. If you do hit any questions at any point, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you, Cameron, and thank you, Michael. That information was very interesting and very helpful. Next up, we have Zanika, and I'm going to pass things over to you. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Community Boost. That was a lot of very, very helpful and interesting information. I'm here today to talk about multi-channel fundraising strategies. And so a lot of what we've covered thus far is really in detail as to platforms and channels and mechanisms that are available to you to enhance your fundraising. I want to kind of back up for a minute and now sort of insert your organization into what we've covered so far. So, we've looked again at a lot of different strategies and tactics that you can use to enhance your fundraising. But, before you can really even look at tactics to enhance your fundraising, you have to set some goals. And this is a critical element of all nonprofit fundraising, yet funny enough, it's often something that is overlooked, or it's easy to become driven by monetary goals because those seem the most pressing. And usually when it comes down to a fundraising initiative, you have a bottom line of what you need to raise. But really, this should be, partially a philosophical consideration as well. And so when you're goal setting, whether it be for the year, the fiscal year, or calendar year, or just over the next couple of months, you want to look at both monetary and non-monetary goals. You should have both. And if you're feeling like you don't really have both, or you don't really know what some of your goals are at present, it's definitely worthwhile to have a brainstorming session with your teammates and your colleagues and just kind of say, okay, what is our trajectory for this year, not just financially, but in terms of donor growth and acquisition. It's great to, kind of go back and say, what has been our average donor growth over the last, 4 or 5 years, or however long your organization has been in existence, and really kind of map that out and see what your, projected growth can be based on what you've done in years past. So a few things that can kind of help drive your goal setting are to look at, what is your target donor profile, or in the most successful fundraising initiatives that you've done, what was the average donor demographic, age, location, income, etc. Interests also play a big role in that. And, it's good to be ambitious. You always want to be ambitious, but it's good to have some bearing on what you can actually achieve. So usually financial goals are more short-term or immediate, But again, non-monetary goals are the longer term initiatives. So, by 2020, we hope to have grown our donor base by this much, or we hope to have tapped into a lookalike audience with the general age range being between 18 to 35, something like that. So this is an encouragement to kind of make sure that you're focusing on goal setting, as this is sort of the first step to determining then what channels will become applicable to you based on your goals. So when you're looking at your goals, part of that is, who is going to help you reach them? Who or what is going to help you reach your goals? And that really comes down to identifying your audience and determining the best approaches to reaching them. So, what does your current audience look like? It's a great exercise to kind of look at whatever information you have available to you in your donor database and kind of, figure out what are some sort of natural segments that occur. What is your general donor age range? What are their general interests? Is there a trend in which initiatives get more donations and engagement than others? Maybe people are more interested in one of your programs and maybe not all of them. This is very insightful information that can help you then determine, okay, what is the best way to approach and really convert this type of individual or donor. Another great thing to mention here is that, going back to now Facebook and Instagram, is what keywords or buzz terms are out there that are associated with your target demographic. So here it's definitely worthwhile to do some social media research and see, okay, these are some trending topics right now, and who is posting about these topics? What is our target demographic interested in? What buzzwords are they using? What keywords are they interested in? And kind of, compile a list of, okay, these are some buzzwords for our target for this age group, and these are some buzzwords for our target for this age group. All right, and multi-channel program considerations. So I really liked that the Community Boost team talked about, fundraising tactics working synergistically. That is exactly the case. Whether or not your target demographic is most receptive to email, that definitely does not mean that social media efforts are a moot point. You should always be using different communication channels to help facilitate and advance your organization's mission, irrespective of which platform people are communicating most on. So we've seen that there's a huge uptick in recent years with Google searches and Facebook and Instagram, but that is not to say that people don't like to receive a direct mail piece every once in a while as a little thank you for their contribution last year, or that they aren't going to be opening your emails. All of these channels work together to facilitate and enhance your fundraising initiatives. But with that said, there are definitely, as the data shows, certain channels that certain types of people prefer. And so when you're looking at, your audience, not just your core audience, but also lookalike audiences and, audiences that you want to break into, but you've been unable to in the past, it's great to kind of break them up into segments, as I mentioned previously, and identify what platforms your target audience is engaging on, and then tailor your message accordingly. So it was actually interesting in the data from Community Boost that while millennials prefer online giving, it was only 62% compared to 59% with baby boomers. So it's showing that the age isn't actually as big of a indicator as people think as to where their fund or their donors are engaging. It's showing that everybody is engaging digitally these days, and rather than thinking of it as direct mail versus digital, it's better to think of it as, okay, everybody's communicating digitally, so let's focus on the messaging and craft specific messaging to reach different audiences. So for example, a communication piece that the intended audience is for, baby boomer generations, it maybe carries a different tone than the communication that you might send out that's intended strictly for, say, 18 to 30-year-old audiences. These are things to be aware of. If you're communicating with roughly 3,000 people, let's say, it's near impossible for one message to be able to, impact 3,000 people in a way that gets them to, give a gift and convert them from a supporter to a donor. So the more that you can kind of break your group of donors into little subsets or segmentations, essentially the more effectively you'll be able to communicate, because you're communicating with a smaller audience now, so you can tailor your message accordingly. And here we have some examples. So Educate Girls Globally is a client of ours, and my colleague actually worked on this campaign with them. So they had a small but loyal following. And of course, like most nonprofits, they're always keen to expand their audience and tap into, a lookalike audience. So they segmented out their donor database, the list of people that they had, and they said, okay, what programs are people most interested in? And not just that, but what programs are generating the most revenue, or what programs are converting the most donors? And they looked at one of their social justice programs, and they saw that over the last 3 years, that program, when they, focused on that for their different communications, that brought in the most revenue for the organization. And then they looked at, okay, well, this is bringing in the most revenue. What types of people comprise this group? And they found that it was predominantly middle-aged women who were interested in social advocacy. So they decided, all right, let's do a series of boosted ads on Facebook, or a Facebook ad campaign, to try and generate what the Community Boost folks brought up as a lookalike audience. So they essentially wanted to replicate the audience that they currently had, but expand their donor database in a way that was now reaching people who were previously unbeknownst to their organization altogether. And they went back also and looked at specifically what was the verbiage of their most successful communications. So whether it was through email or direct mail or social media or text messaging, they wanted to see, what specific messaging generated the most click-throughs or conversions. And then they crafted their messages to incorporate a lot of those same buzzwords and keywords that had been successful in the past to try and, create more engagement from lookalike audiences. They were very successful in this endeavor, and they grew their donor database. And when they went back through the data, they saw that they were able to successfully acquire, again, that lookalike audience who they can now cultivate a relationship with and sort of convert into a core audience for their fundraising initiatives. And this is another organization who's worked with us recently. This is Dabo, and they've been a Mobile Cause client for some time. We worked with them on a campaign last year. They also had a strong but small following. And, they thought that one way that they could sort of grow their donor base was to run a contest. So they did this multi-channel campaign to give away, I think it was like season tickets to football games for the for the team that the organization president was a captain for. And they gained traction from lookalike audiences, again, from targeted messaging. And one of the things that was so great about these guys is that they were not afraid to test different messaging. And that's something also that Community Boost mentioned that I think is a critical point to emphasize, because I know, as a nonprofit, you're always wanting to target new audiences to avoid donor fatigue. But you're also really afraid to either, communicate too frequently or say something that people aren't going to like, and then they become disinterested. And that actually yields to a lack of communication where communication should be done. So rather, be empowered to try different tactics, to, post more rather than less, because chances are, Facebook's algorithm is customized in such a way that it's unlikely that the average person will see all of your posts anyways. Facebook is always trying to show people content that they think they want to see. So even if you were to post, 14 times in one day, for example, any given person who follows you might only see 6 of those. And that's just, again, due to Facebook's algorithm. So you should feel empowered to try new forms of messaging, new styles, new images. These guys were very proactive about coming up with, different styles of messaging based on what they had done in the past, but also what they had seen other organizations like them do recently that seemed to work well for them. So they were very open to trying new things. They started out with 75 people in their database, so very small. And they ended up converting 1,100 donors from this effort. And they grew their donor database by 760 people and counting. So simply by virtue of people entering a contest through a mobile cause form, our system was able to capture all of that data. And while those people may not initially be donors, it's given the organization the opportunity to now cultivate a relationship with their new constituents and convert them into a donor sort of in the longer term. And so kind of tying everything together, creating a more seamless experience for donors across all channels and devices is a high priority for many nonprofits. And the data shows that, creating a seamless user experience, trying new things, using multi-channels works synergistically and will enhance your fundraising initiatives overall. So I hope that today you're walking away with lots of ideas and also feeling empowered to try out some new things.
Awesome. Thank you, Zanika, for sharing such valuable information for us and for that example. And as a quick reminder, if you haven't yet, please submit any questions you have into the questions box in your control panel. And before we jump into Q&A for the last couple of minutes here, I have a quick poll I'm going to launch. And the question is, how likely are you to run an ad campaign in the future, in your next event? Excellent. So go ahead and make your selection here and submit. Awesome, lots of positive responses here. I'll go ahead and close this poll out and share the results. No, I didn't capture everybody's vote here, but just for the sake of time, looks like 50% of folks said most likely in the next 3 months, and majority are in that yes camp. Excellent, thanks for your feedback there. Now let's switch gears for just a few minutes, and I have a few questions here that I want to pose to our staff that have been coming in through the questions menu. So first off, for Cameron and Michael, what are some things that you suggest we have in place before beginning use of Google Ads?
Great question. Well, to get approved, this might sound, you have to have a website, right? So you definitely have to have a website to be approved for the Google Ad Grant. What's interesting is sometimes we'll certainly talk to nonprofits that are saying, well, we want to wait until this point to try it. But that's one of the things that's so amazing about the ad grant specifically is it's free ad spend, right? So it doesn't hurt, in my opinion, to just really get it going. But website, obviously, if donations is a key priority, making sure you have some donor. At least people can donate online, but really you don't have to have too much to get started, and just making sure you go through that approval process correctly and getting that foundation going. It's really an iterative process that you'll just continue to improve over time.
Thank you. Next question here for Zanika. You talked about setting goals and figuring out your audience. Would you say start small and go big, or the other way around?
I think both are a very valuable exercise, and I actually think it would be interesting if you did just that. If you had a brainstorming activity and you started sort of macro level and moved into your little micro niches, and then vice versa, would you come out with the same sort of ideal audiences? That would be an interesting exercise to do. And I think it depends on the nature of your organization. I always like to kind of start broad. I think for many people, it's kind of the more the merrier, and you don't want to necessarily exclude yourself from tapping into networks that might be potentially very viable for you just because you might not think that people of this nature are interested, but you could be wrong about that. And so I don't think it's harmful to start sort of broad and then figure out within this wide pool of target audiences maybe some niches or sort of micro groups that might yield the highest conversion and the biggest contributions to your organization.
Thank you. Next question here for Cameron and Michael. How can Facebook ads help you grow an email list?
Sure. Yeah. So it's, whenever you're running paid ads, you want to think about where you're sending them, right? So like which landing page in particular. So if you're running hard donation ads on Facebook and Instagram, then of course you want to go to the donation page. But if you are running more, like softer ads or maybe some sort of value, right? Kind of one of the, it's no surprise that when most sites might have something around sign up for our newsletter, right? Those usually don't convert very well. However, if you, say you're tackling homelessness in your area, right? And you're running ads around to people about, the top ways that they can help curb homelessness in their town. And they hit a landing page and they can get this guide. And to get the guide, they need to input their email. That's just kind of one quick example. Facebook actually does have these lead forms that actually you don't even have to send people off site. That's a little bit more of an advanced tactic. But sending people to the landing page is important, and that's kind of a more advanced conversation where you can do things like email scroll boxes on your website and potentially even testing certain pop-ups that can really help build the email list systematically.
I know we're running a little over time, so I'm just going to ask one more question from the audience today. This is for Zanika. I love the idea of tailoring messages, but I don't have a staff or a writer that I can work with. Do you have any suggestions on good resources to help me?
Yeah, definitely. I love that because that is a lot of our clientele, and I think one of the things that is underutilized is just looking at organizations that do well. You can do your own research as to what some other organizations are doing in their most successful campaigns, and again, do just the research of your target audience. What do they like? If you're trying to tap into a certain demographic or socioeconomic status, find some of those people on social media or just you can do research on successful campaigns and see what other people are doing out there. There's a plethora of information that's available to you online, whether it be through Facebook and other organizations' Facebook pages or simple Google searches. So definitely you can do research there, and then also that's what I'm here for, and that's what Community Boost is here for. We're digital marketing strategists and experts that are here to kind of help nonprofits who are lacking staff or capacity or time to do all the research themselves, and we come with a lot of experience and best practices. So you can also chat to us if you have some questions about that.
Indeed. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. And if you have a question that wasn't answered today, feel free to copy and paste that into an email. Send it to marketing@mobilecause.com. And if what you've heard today interests you and you'd like to learn a little bit more, you can be connected to a fundraising expert here at Mobile Cause today. Simply submit your response in the pop-up as you exit today's webinar. And you can always give us a call toll-free at 888-661-8804 or view our pricing at mobilecause.com. And thanks to our speakers, thanks to our audience, and I want to wish everyone today a wonderful rest of your afternoon and best of luck with your upcoming campaign. Bye for now.